p.m., Hawkins County 911 received a call of a possible active shooter. Apparently the person had a firearm. So the command post is established at the Churchill Station 2, just below Volunteer High School. Currently now, the children are being safely transported to a different location outside the school on school buses, taken to the Mount Carmel Armory, which is located just before Kingsport, obviously, as you're going through Mount Carmel. So all outside resource requests has been fulfilled. We've contacted TEMA. We were able to get all the resources we needed from surrounding counties and several different agencies. These resources are being managed by the incident management team. So currently the list of agencies that we have involved is the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, the Churchill Police Department, the Mount Carmel Police Department, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, Kingsport Police Department, Sullivan County Sheriff's Office, Sargonza Police Department, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is assisting. On the other side of it, you have the Hawkins County EMS, Sullivan County EMS, Churchill Rescue Squad, the Hawkins County Rescue Squad, Sargonza Fire Department, Carters Valley Fire Department, TEMA, the Hawkins County Emergency Management Association, and the Kingsport Fire Department. So this is still a ongoing incident. There are still several resources there now that are currently doing several more detailed sweeps of the school. And any law enforcement questions, if you could refer to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office Facebook page or the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office in general. I'm here to speak about the fire EMS and basically the incident command team.
Chris, can you give us any indication of what that looks like right now from your perspective, and what everyone that you have on the ground, what are they doing right now? What are those responsibilities?
So currently we have, with large incidents like this, you have several different people have to manage and keep track of all those different teams through radio communications. Not everybody's on the same radios, so we have to make sure that each person can communicate with the rest of the team and the command staff. So you have your law enforcement personnel are actively inside the school. They've evacuated the children out to be moved onto the school buses to be transported to the safe location. EMS, several EMS agencies that I listed and rescue agencies are standing by to assist with the traffic control, or in the event that there is any medical emergencies or any type of emergency that can be handled by the resources on the scene. There's also a helicopter on Press Road that's been staging this entire incident.
Can you tell us what happened, and are any students injured? We've heard that there could be possibly some injuries. We also heard rumors of a fatality.
I have not been notified of any fatality. As far as the injuries go, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, if you look at their post, there has been some injuries, but unrelated to, it's just several things that not related to the gunshots or anything as such like that.
So were there gunshots? Can you tell us what happened? Like, what was the call? Was someone saying that there was someone coming to the school, or what was the call? I don't know. You said
the call was just that there was a possible active shooter and that someone had a pistol.
And that's all you know about the situation? That's
all I know about that.
So no one was shot, you know? No one was shot.
The whole time that I've been here, I was not told that anybody's been shot.
Okay. Has anybody been evacuated in an ambulance or taken out to the hospital or treated for injuries?
Hawkins County EMS has transported 2 people, and their conditions unknown, injuries unknown.
Students?
That's unknown.
Okay.
So was there any credibility to have you found that person who may have had that pistol from that original call?
So unfortunately, I'm not speaking for the law enforcement perspective, so any of those would have to be directed toward the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office as far as that would go. But it's still active. They are still on the scene there now.
What about any current threat?
As far as to the school?
Well, to you guys, I mean, on the scene and everything, is there?
Well, they're still there. They're still obviously being very thorough in their search and things. So until the sheriff's office or the law enforcement says it's good to go, then I would presume it to still be a threat, and obviously don't go to the school.
Were there any other schools that went into lockdown too?
That would be a question for the school system.
Okay.
And Chris, you said that the crews that you're over are actually treating the medical emergencies. As of right now, what seems to be the condition of the students who are being evacuated and at the schools at this time? What have those interactions been like?
As far as them being taken and put on the bus and such?
Correct. Just how are the students doing right now?
From what I've seen, very cooperative in line, obviously lining them out to get on the bus, and they are inspected by paramedics or EMTs getting onto the bus, and then obviously when they get back to the armory, they're being assessed again, just to make sure there's no injuries and everyone's okay.
And you said that those injuries earlier were not related, but can you give a little bit more detail as to what they were, like why students were being transported out if there were no gunshots?
I won't be doing the Hawkins County Sheriff's will be released more of that. I can just tell you that they were transported, and I don't really know the extent of the injuries or anything of that matter.
When you get a call, like a possible shooter inside a big school, what goes through your mind in terms of, we gotta get there, we gotta get these kids safe?
Well, essentially, it comes down to that's the most precious thing you have is the children, and you're most defenseless. So obviously getting the resources there quickly, and that definitely happened. It was a sea of blue lights just before I could get from Segornsville to volunteer. So getting there and making sure that everybody's safe, obviously is number one priority.
I know Hawkins County does regular active shooting drills, and you're also a police officer, and you participated in those. So how did the drill compare to the real thing?
So, and I'm glad you brought that up. So that is something they do. They actually go to the schools and they'll do the live training, and they'll act like they'll actually put somebody inside, and they'll go stop it. So it worked very well as far as setting up the instant command system, unified command, having every agency together in one building, your law enforcement, fire, EMS, the school system, anybody that you're going to use, TEMA. So that's your major thing, is managing to make sure that the strategic plan is in place and it's followed, because we have a list of what has to be done when there's incidents like this. So you go through, check all those boxes, and make sure everything gets completed, and it makes it go a lot smoother, not as chaotic. It's a controlled chaos, I suppose.
So the training that you guys have done in the past, that paid off today then, I would take it?
Hugely. Any training you can get.
Were there situations today where lack of training could have been a real problem or tragic, maybe?
If proper training wasn't in place, I think it obviously would not have went as smoothly.
Chris, do you have any estimate on how many students you all are responsible for transporting to the Mount Carmel Armory?
I would say the staging officer who's there, I actually haven't seen just how many, but I know there was several buses lined up, and they were filling those buses and taking them. So I would say several.
Can you tell us, how important it is? I know a lot of parents were showing up to the school, but you guys were asking them not to do that. How important is it for people to stay away from Volunteer High School, especially for the next couple of hours as you guys continue to sweep?
So that's very important. So what you do is you get more people in there, and obviously it's the children, it's their children, so it's very emotional. So when you get the emotions, it gets in the way of what's going on, and it becomes a distraction to those first responders, because then the first responders are taking their attention away from what the job at hand is, and they're dealing with a third-party incident. And especially with the children, at that time, they're going to be protected by the law enforcement or whoever is there at the time, and they're just going to be released to whoever. So that's why it's going through a systematic process to transfer them to a location. They're verifying who's getting the child. That way, it's just not chaos.
Just for some further clarity, when we had called EMS, they had said that several people had been transported via ambulance. You're saying it looked more about like 2, and that there were no gunshot wounds in these situations.
I have not been made aware of any gunshot wounds. Also, I'm only aware of 2. So unless something's changed, but I don't believe it has.
They were like health related though. They weren't like injuries. Is that right?
As far as I know, that's what it's looking more like, but that's still unknown. I'm not sure on that. That would be an EMS question.
How concerning is it that Hawkins County, they did just post that the suspect has not been located? How concerning is that to you, especially considering that it's a school day and I know that the kids are out, but this is a community?
To me personally, the perimeter is still in place, so anybody that's coming off that property is being checked through various points. There's only so many ways to get out there. There's so many police officers there. There's no way you could sneak out, that's for sure. So they're still, like I said, they're still going to be there searching until every inch is cleared.
And I don't know if you can answer this, but we spoke to a student who said that at one point she was notified that there was a suspect in a bathroom, like maybe cornered in a bathroom. Is that accurate, or are you aware of anything like that?
I'm not aware if that would be a sheriff's office question.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, I want to thank you to all of the first responders. We've had it described that it was a sea of blue lights. It was a sea of blue lights, red lights, and associated personnel that responded immediately to the situation this morning. They are performing a detailed sweep as we speak. I just received a phone call And we will be notified of reentry plans and a debrief at some point later this afternoon.
And that debrief, and who is that going to be along? Are the students ever going to return back to the school today, or is that just teachers and personnel there?
Given the fact that it's 12:30, I would state, 11:30, we're moving toward, still working on parent reunification with students off-site as was described. Given the fact that we're still in the middle of that, doing a detailed sweep, they're probably another 2 hours away from clearing that up if that's the continued progress. So I would not figure or plan on students returning today.
Can you talk a little bit about the student evacuation process and reunification with parents? Just walk us through what that process, how y'all did that.
As described, the students are screened. They are told to walk out with their hands above their heads as a sign of being screened and that they are safe to proceed toward buses. They are marched in a line with officers at the front and end of the line, as well as several staged in between with staff members present in the same line. And then they are loaded on the buses. The buses are staged. Once the buses are loaded, they are taken in a caravan over to the reunification offsite.
I asked Mr. Vaughn about the previous training they've had, the active shooter training. Can you talk about that and what your observation was as to the effectiveness?
Well, I think it was reiterated earlier, and I completely agree, the more training, the better. And any time that you can train and prepare for these types of situations, the better you are at handling them when something real comes up. And I want to praise our staff and our administrators and those that responded this morning. It seems like they were, from the outside looking in, very, very responsive and Johnny on the spot when they needed to be.
And your faculty and staff go through that also, don't they?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
Mr. Wilson, can you talk about the resources that might be made available to staff, teachers, and students in the coming days?
Counseling and mental health support are already in place. Frontier Health has stepped up, as well as others through Ballot and other agencies have already offered to be on site at reunification to identify any needs. Beyond today, our school counselors and then the outside agencies will be brought in as needed as well, continuing.
And we often talk about school security. Are there any measures already in place at Volunteer High School to prevent someone from making it into the building with a weapon, and will that be considered after this incident?
I think we always consider that. To answer your question, yes, outside doors are locked. There are points of entry for students coming to school. There's electronic access panels for the main entry to the building. Everybody has to proceed through the office. Of course, drop off in the mornings, doors get left open, teachers let students in, but the more adult and faculty eyes we have on students entering and other strangers entering the campus, the better, and everybody is very, very vigilant at Volunteer.
Can you describe what happened this morning, and also how many SROs are at your school, and what was that process like?
We've got SROs at every single location. We've got a lead SRO that also facilitates the other SROs that are located on our school sites. As far as details this morning, you probably know what I know. We received a phone call, as was described earlier this morning, that there was a possible active shooter and that there was a student needing medical assistance, and 911 services were rolled.
And at one point, we did hear from a student that person was barricaded in a bathroom at one point. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm. I have not been told whether that's factual or not.
How many SROs are stationed, though, at Volunteer High?
There was one this morning.
Just one?
Yep. I would say within 2 to 3 minutes there were multiple. Yeah.
Talk about coordinating with the armory over there.
So we had attendance clerks and staff that are familiar with the attendance software that scrambled over there this morning, helped set up tables. We had law enforcement that actually set up a corridor inside the building there, make sure it was accessible to parents in an orderly fashion, and parents are showing up and claiming their students and in an orderly fashion. We've got law enforcement there, school personnel, as well as armory personnel.
We have a lot of parents even tuning into our Facebook Live right now, kind of looking for some of those answers. Has there been any evidence of any possible gunshots or a gun found in the school? I think that's one of the most important for them.
What I can tell you now is that I have not been briefed on any evidence of that, so that's good news. Now that could change. That could be that they just haven't seen that or been exposed to that as of yet. But again, that detailed last sweep through the classrooms will turn up any evidence or anything that we can provide as further information.
This is the second day of school for you, and tell me, what's going through your mind as the director of schools here to get a phone call like this so early in the morning, just at the beginning of the school year? What's that like?
When you get a phone call such as this, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you've got students in safe places. So the first phone call is to lock the building down. That was already being done. Simultaneously, we also had staff calling 911, multiple 911 calls. So again, what goes through your mind is student safety, staff safety, parents that happen to be there, their safety. We want our schools to be safe, as everybody else does throughout the state of Tennessee and across the nation. And unfortunately, there are these types of events that come up. And as mentioned earlier, the better prepared you are, the better you can deal with the real situation when it does arise.
And just to clarify, this timeline was pretty early in the day. Had school already started at that time, or were you still in a parent drop-off period?
We were still in drop-off period, preparing for the first period.
How did you hear about the threat?
I actually received a phone call directly from our lead SRO, Renee Larkin.
Do you know how they found out about it?
No, I believe through dispatch is how she found out.
Do you know at this time if a student, teacher, or somebody made that call to dispatch? Was it somebody inside of that building?
I am not aware of that. We're not sure. I do know that there have been attempts to track down any type of communication leading up to that, so they can determine whether or not it was factual, whether or not it was based on firsthand knowledge, or if it was hearsay, that type of thing.
At this time, are there plans to return students to Volunteer High School tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yep. I will take my direction from law enforcement as they conclude this afternoon and we develop our reentry plan, just to make sure that it's first and foremost safe and that we're not tampering with anything that they need to further look into. But the plan is to roll with school tomorrow. We've been through COVID and through a lot of closures, and our intent is to keep students in school and keep them learning. Thank you.
Ready to sign off.